Hello friends. Wow, after a long time here again I'm doing a video. I was away for 3-4 months. I was traveling, actually went back home in India. Anyhow, um, in today's video, what we're going to look into the new dynamic format, uh, which is just introduced in April 2023 Power BI update. Let's look at this, what dynamic format is, how without having this feature being introduced in the most recent release of Power BI, how we were able to achieve that in the past, and what are the certain challenges with this new feature that has been released. Let's get to Power BI and take a look. So here I have a sales by country. I'm just showing some sales is a sum of sales and showing it by country. And let's say if there is an ask to show the currency symbol of each country next to the sales, instead of just showing the dollar sign as it is currently showing right now, how we can achieve that and how we were able to achieve that in the past. Let me tell you, in the past, the only way to do a dynamic formatting or a formatting based on a certain logic was possible through the calculation groups. If let's say if you don't have any need of calculation groups, there are many other reasons why you should use calculation groups. But let's say if this was the only requirement that you wanted a custom format string based on some logic, the only way you could have done in the past was through calculation groups. And there were challenges. Some of the companies could not install the external tools because calculation groups, you cannot author that within the Power BI desktop. You have to use the external tools like Visual Studio or Tabular Editor. And so the people who does not have access to those external tools, they could not use the dynamic formatting prior to the release of April 2023 of Power BI update. Now you can have the dynamic format within the Power BI. And how we can do that? Let me quickly show you guys. So what you guys need to do is select the measure on which you want to apply the dynamic formatting, like in this case, some sales. And you can see there's the format. What you need to do is on the drop down, select dynamic. When you select dynamic on the drop down here, you have now two options in your way you write the formula bar. Measure is simply what your actual measure is, and when you on drop down select the format, it gives you the current format string that is being used for that particular measure. Here you can write your own DAX expression to calculate a format string or whatever format string you want to apply. Let's say in this particular example, what we want to do is for the country Australia, Canada, and USA, United States, we want to show the a currency symbol dollar sign. For France and Germany, we want to show the euro, and for UK, we want to show the a sterling pound sign. And on the total, we want to show the dollar sign. Again, these format string can be stored in a table and can be used from there. I'm not going into all those details, but I'm just showing here how you can write your own a custom DAX expression to calculate the format string or apply the format string. I already have a DAX expression which I'm going to copy here to showcase that. So let me grab it from my notepad and then paste it here. So what this is doing here is it's saying, okay, what country currently has been selected, and if no country has been selected, then it goes default to the all, like all country. So then I have used a switch statement. I said if it's all United States or Canada, then use a dollar sign symbol. If it's Australia, also use the dollar sign. If it's UK, use sterling pound. Otherwise, use the euro symbol and then a format string which is showing a number without decimal. So I'm concatenating those symbols with the actual format string. And once I apply this particular format string DAX expression, what I expected to see here in my visual here, the currency symbol will change based on the country. So as you can see, Australia is showing dollar, Canada is a dollar, France is euro, Germany is euro, and sterling pound for UK and United States. And on the total, we are showing that dollar sign. Again, the reason why we are showing the dollar sign on the total, because I'm saying if in this particular case at the total line, my selected country value will be all, and then I'm saying when it is all, then show the dollar sign. Again, this is just an example how you can deploy the dynamic format. So um, based on the country at which you're looking at the data, it is giving you the currency symbol of that particular country or whatever the logic you have put in the dynamic format. So this looks great, and this is working perfectly fine, and this is really already very powerful. Prior to this, again, I just wanted to bring it up here. Prior to this particular release of April 2023, if you have to achieve the same functionality, it was possible, but it was only possible using calculation groups. You create a calculation groups, and in that particular calculation group, you apply the same kind of a logic to achieve the custom format string. So this all looks good. This is amazing, and this is a great feature, great release, great update, and kudos to Power BI team. But I found there's one challenge with all this. Let's talk about what that challenge is. Uh, let's say our requirement is um, the not to show the currency symbols, but based on the value, we want to show the whether it is a million or a billion or a thousands as in a number. Let me explain you what I'm saying here. Uh, let's go if you go to some sales, and if you go to the format pane, again I'm still getting used to this new on object formatting, so I could be a little bit looking around and getting used to of this. So let's say in this particular case, when the sum sales, if we go to cell elements and we go not actually cell elements, uh, I think specific column. If I go to specific column and I go sum sales, and here I can choose the display units. I can choose the units in 1,000. I can choose the units in millions, billions, or trillions. Let's say I want to show it in 1,000. So if I select the thousands, so now it is showing 9288,000, right? So K, and if I want to show in the million, it will be 9 million, because there's no decimal places showing 9 million. If there is a decimal place, it will show 9.2 whatever. Let's say if we make it 2 decimal places, it will show you 9.29 million. All right, so what this is happening is because we are setting the value in the display unit whether we want to show it in a millions or billions or thousands. But what about if I want to make it a more of a dynamic, that if the value is less than 1,000, I want to show the straight number. If the value is less than million, I want to show it in the thousands. If value is less than billion, I want to show it in millions. And if value is on and above billion, then I want to show it 1.2 billion instead of showing this huge number. So how we can do that? How we can achieve that? Can dynamic format help with us? Yes, it can help us to achieve that, but again there's a little bit of a challenge how we can what we need to do to achieve it. So let's look at that, how we can do that. I'm going to make it back to none so that we don't and make it auto, so that it's just pick up the default setting of the format string. So let's go back to auto. I think, wow, that's not an option. Auto, okay. So if we remove everything, it's auto. So now we are back to where we were. So I'm going to remove this dynamic format string, the dollar and pound sign, but use thousand, millions, and billions logic. So to do that, what we're going to do is first, before we do that, I have another measure which is sum sales no format. I want to show that measure here as well, just to see what our base number is all about, because this number we are changing based on the thousands, millions and billions, but this is just the default number to compare against what our value here look like. So go back to sum sales. What we're going to do here is then going to the dynamic format string, and currently our logic is, this is what our logic is. Let me actually bring this a little bit down here so that we can see the uh, visual and the formula here as well. So I'm going to copy my DAX expression, which I already have written. First of all, about the challenge. The challenge is I want to apply my logic on the sum sales on the measure. So if my base, my measure is, let's go back to measure. It's going to change immediately since it's been the new format string is applied, but I will explain that for what this formula is doing. But let's go back to measure. What we're doing is we're saying is sum sales is sum of total sales amount. That's our measure. Now coming back, because based on the total sales or the sum sales, we want to apply the format, because if the sum of sales is less than 1000, then just show the pure number. If it is less than 1 million, then show in thousands. If less than 1 billion, then show in a million. It means we want to find out what is the sum sales is. Unfortunately, we have no way to have access of what our actually measure formula in our measure is written. So I can't say, okay, use whatever the value or the DAX expression of this measure is returning and use that in my dynamic format, where I'm writing my dynamic format expression or DAX expression. It means I have to repeat this formula, sum sales, total sales amount, in my format string here as well. And that is kind of we are doing the same calculation DAX expression at two different places. So in case the challenge with this I found is, in case if I go here and make some logical change, let's say multiply it with 100 for whatever reason, or I put any other condition or any filter or anything, it means I have to make sure that I'm doing the same change in my format DAX expression as well. Or what I can do is I can write a base measure, which is sum sales amount, and then use that at two different, basically make a copy of that measure and then use that measure in both in this particular measure and in the format string as well. That's where I found this is a little bit challenging. I should be able to access my DAX expression, which I'm giving here in my measure, in my format string as well. So basically I'm repeating the same DAX expression what I'm using in my measure in the format string as well, and there's a chance that we can make a mistake. If we come here, we make a logical change here in my DAX expression and we forget to do that in my format string, then we can have some sort of a discrepancy. So do take note of this and make sure, if you are making a custom format string based on the DAX expression you are using for your measure, you have to do it at the two different places, or you create another measure which is just a hidden measure, internal measure, and use that measure in both the places. So that's the challenge what I found with this new feature. So anyhow, so now I have a sum sales amount. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to the format string, but I'm just going to walk you guys through what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is my total sales is sum sales amount, and I just using a dollar sign. I can also put this dollar sign as a logic based on the country, whether it's a, for the simplicity, I'm just using the dollar sign right now. And then again, I'm doing the base decimal. Do I want to show the decimal places? How many decimal places I want to show? Zero, two zeros after decimal places, or no decimal places. And I will explain what I'm doing here. So what I'm using is switch statement. So I'm saying if my total sales is less than 1000, it means I wanted to show the number as it is. So my format string is my base format, which is this one, and then a period, there's a dot, decimal place, and then the base decimal, number of decimal places I want to show. And if my value is less than a million, then I want to show it in the thousands. So the formula here is, again, this is a logic, and if you wanted to show the value in the thousands, so you put a comma before the decimal place, so that remove the three digits from their base number, so divided by 1000 basically. So that is, then I'm giving a symbol k, it means showing as in 1000. I can remove the k, or I can ask, I can put anything else here as well. I can say thousands, for example, if I wanted to. And again, if my value is less than a billion, what I want is my base format, which is, again, base format is my this particular prior to the decimal place, before decimal place, how I want to format my number, and then two commas prior to the period decimal place, and that is basically doing divided, removing the six digits divided by 100,000. So that is the base. Then I'm doing the base decimal, which is like if I want to show the decimal places or not, and then I'm showing million, depending if I want to give a space or not. And otherwise, I want to, if the number is, it means if the number is above 10 billion, then I'm showing in the billion, and I'm giving the three commas prior to the decimal place, and that is the logic how we're going to format. So let's see how this is working right now. So as you can see right now, it is showing the base. Again, the base number is, that's why I put this number is here with just no formatting. This is 9 million. So what we're seeing is 9.29 million. And why we're showing 9.29? Because we have a two decimal places. If I don't want to see any decimal places, I can just change this my base decimal and put this in a empty without any zero, and then this will be just 9 million. Let's see if that works. And here you go, this should be showing up a 9 million, 2 million, 3 million. If I really want to show one decimal place, what I can do is, again, I can go back and just put one decimal place. So again, I'm now writing my own logic in my custom format string so that it can be dynamic. Now you can see it is 9.3 million. Again, our all values are a less than a billion and more than a million. That's why everything we're seeing is in the million. But what I did is I just put another, to test this logic is working, I created a disconnected table to as in a multiplier to reduce and increase the sales value. So let's bring that as in a slicer, and I think I called it multiplier, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, sales multiplier. I'm going to bring that sales multiplier as in a here, and then again, bear with me, I'm getting used to this new functionality, and we're going to use this as in a slicer. Then go to the format pane of the slicer, and then go to the visual slicer site settings. We want the vertical list, and perfect. And then I have a slicer here, like that is just in a multiplier. So basically we are going to multiply some sales with the selected value. So I have a 0.1, it means it will if the value is 100, it will multiply with 0.1, whatever the value selected. If it's $100, it will multiply with 0.5, that will make it a $50. Yeah, or 1 as a default, or multiply by 100, 10, and whatever I select here, just to show the billions and millions and the thousands, how the custom format string is working. And I also wrote a measure here, just so that you guys know, for my multiplier, and the measure is called selected multiplier. So what I'm saying here in the measure, if selected value of the sales multiplier, if whatever the value selected, use that. If more than one value selected or no value selected, then use 1 as my multiplier. So let's see how does this work. What we need to do is we need to go back to our sum sales, and again in sum sales, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go multiply it with my selected multiplier. Okay, so now this selected multiplier is with 10. So I expect the numbers to change, but again, this is not going to work. And the problem here is because we are not like we expected to see the billions. If I multiply with the 1000, the reason why this is not working is still showing in the millions, The reason why behind that is again the challenge which I told you guys before, that in I multiplied my base measure with the selected multiplier, but in the format string, in the format, I also need to make the change, because here I'm also writing a DAX expression. I need to make sure that I also multiply it here, select multiplier, and now I expected to see the billions here all of a sudden, because now the format change. Here you go. So 9.3 billion, 2 billion, and if I want it to be two decimal places, what it would be 9.29 billion, something like that. Yeah, here you go. So now based on my selected value, so my dynamic, the format string is, here you go, it's 0.93 billion. If I go 10, it's now changing to the millions. One is, of course, that's the default value, which is millions. And if you go zero point 0.5, still is within the million, and that's why we're seeing the millions. And if I go like taking just 10% of my total sales, I can see in the thousands as well. And so this dynamic format is really powerful. Again, you have to pay attention how it works on the total line, because total is above million, everything is in thousands at the row level, at the country level, but at the total level it's million, and that's why it's showing the million. You know, we that's how this thing is working. So like if I go 10, again, this is at the each country level, it's in the millions, but when it comes to the total, it's in the billions, and that's why it is showing as a 0.30 billion. Again, dynamic format string is really powerful, and you can now write very powerful DAX expression, that how you want to format your numbers. But again, if you are using the same measure on in the custom format string, you really need to make sure, if you're making a change in the DAX expression of the measure, you also make that change in the format play here as well, or create another hidden measure. Let me show you what, when I say what when I refer to the hidden measure, what I can do then is I can write a measure. Let's do that. Sum sales, and we're going to take this, write a new measure here. Let's see, let's call it new measure. Let's call it base sum sales is equal to our sum sales total amount and the selected multiplier. So that's our logic, how we calculate the sum sales. And then going into our sum sales measure, we will not do the calculation here. What we will say is base sum sales. So we are adding this one extra measure, because so that we can refer it to two different places. And also in the measure format, what we will do is we will say, instead of writing this logic base sum sales, here you go. So now both places we are using base sum sales. So anytime we want to make a logical change in the sum sales, we will do it in the base sum sales, and it will be applied to the measure value which we're showing in our visuals, and also in the custom format string. I hope one day there will be improvement in this section, where we can actually use the value of the measure within the same format string, instead of adding a new measure, and then we will able to have the business logic at one single place, and can be used both to show the value and also in the format string. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I know dynamic format is really an interesting area, and there's nothing extraordinary I'm showing here, but I just want to point out that one single challenge here, that when you're using the calculation in a measure calculation in your format string, you have to really pay attention to that. Apart from that, it is really powerful and a great feature, and no need to use the calculation groups anymore. No need to convert your measures into the a text using the format function, and you can achieve really amazing things with this. This is awesome. Um, um, do subscribe my channel. There's a lot more videos I'm bringing up since I'm back. It's been a while, and I'm looking forward to share all the fun stuff which I learned from last few months, and I really wanted to share it with all of you. Stay tuned until next video. Do subscribe my channel. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye for now.